Started. Let's pause that.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't find any enabled videos.
Hi guys, you alright?
How you doing?
Chilling, winding down after a busy day.
You look comfortable.
I am all snuggled on the sofa.
Good to hear it, Remy. Good to hear it.
Yeah. You guys had a good day?
Not too bad, relaxing. Oh yeah, this might clash with the England match actually. The England match starts soon against Poland.
Shit.
So some of the men might not turn up.
My camera might go off.
Yeah. Well, they might have it on in the background.
I didn't even know there was a match on today.
Yeah. It's like, I'm not sure what time it starts. 7:30, 7:45, maybe.
Okay. Let's see.
Yes, mate. I don't know whether you want to kick off, buddy. We'll all go on mute, share your screen. It's recording now, so people can just jump in and catch up with it as and when.
Yeah.
So,
All right, then.
all
Yeah,
yours,
we'll
mate.
do. All right. So I'll share this up. Get this on. All right. Good evening, everyone. So what I'll be talking about today is purchasing low lease flats. So most of these, or this example, well, most of these are going to be based on examples in North London. So one bed flats is what I'm going to talk about mainly today. So the basic concept of purchasing a low lease flat is by buying a flat with a low lease, and then after that, I'm going to extend the lease, and then after you extend it, it creates an uplift in value. So that's the basic concept. You buy a flat with a low lease, extend the lease, and then after that, it creates an uplift in the value of the flat. So what is a low lease flat? Generally, if a flat has a lease of under 80 years, I class it as a low lease flat, because after, or below, should I say, 80 years, the value of the flat starts to diminish. So it's best that you, at some point, increase the value of the flat by extending the lease. So 80 years is like a pinnacle point in terms of leases, in terms of residential leasehold properties. Now, this is called the marriage value. So the marriage value is basically the difference in a leasehold's property value after the lease has been extended compared to what it was before the lease. Yeah. So after 80 years, the value of a flat will be normal, or can be normal. Anything below 80 years, then the value starts to diminish. I mean, on the screen is just a brief definition of what the marriage value is. So 80 years is more like a key number in terms of flats, residential flats. Now, for myself, I normally look for flats with a lease of between 60 and 80 years. Yeah. So if it's below that, gets a bit iffy. And if it's above that, you don't really gain as much value. So I always look between flats that have a value of a lease length, should I say, between 60 and 80 years. Then after I've purchased them and extended the lease, on average, I look for an uplift of a minimum of between 20 and 25% in terms of uplift. So this is like a paper way of extending or creating value of a flat, but without doing the BRR. So the paper version of doing the BRR strategy, just by creating uplift in the value of a flat. So with the ones that I buy, I use a buy-to-let mortgage generally. A normal buy-to-let mortgage, and normally it can range between maybe, I don't know, 14, 16, 18 years in terms of the mortgage length, but it's a normal mortgage, so nothing special about it. A normal buy-to-let mortgage. So with these, I put down maybe 25% deposit, or sometimes I could put down 80%. Sorry, not 25%, 25% deposit, or I could put down 20% deposit, which means 80% loan to value or 75% loan to value, depending on what lender I go with. And generally, I go with a 2-year fixed. And then just before the end of that 2-year fixed, I can refinance and take out uplift in the value. The 5 main common lenders that I use are Keystone Mortgages. You've got the mortgage lender, Kensington, foundation home loans, and land bay. Those are the main 5 that I use. There's also a 6th one called capital home loans, and they allow you to have a mortgage, but at the end of a mortgage term, the lease cannot be lower than 40 years. But I haven't used them ones yet. So the main 5 I've used, like I said before, a Keystone, a mortgage lender, Kensington, foundation home loans, and land bay. And if you use those 5, at the end of the mortgage term, the lease cannot be lower than 50 years at the end of the mortgage term. But in theory, you're not meant to be really keeping that mortgage with them for the whole of 18 years or 14 years, or whatever it is. But what you're going to do, you're going to refinance just before the 2-year fixed period is up, and then you get a normal 25-year buy-to-let mortgage with the same lender or a different lender after that. So, but initially, just get a 2-year fixed, and then put down, like I said, a 25% deposit or a 20% deposit. Now, Kensington do a 20% deposit, which is 80% loan to value. So that's the only one out of those 5 or 6 lenders that will give you a 20% deposit. Now, this is an example of one I purchased last year. This is a 1-bedroom flat in Enfield. It cost 155,000 to buy with a 64-year lease. So this one I got through one of my contacts. What they do, they've got an investors list. So every time they get properties onto the market, they always contact the ones on their investors list. And I was one of those individuals. So they phoned me up and said, yeah, we've got this flat coming on next week. I can get you in there tomorrow or the following day if you want. If you're available, come and see it. So I did. It was on for 165, but because they know me and everything, they said, look, like the vendor wants a minimum of this amount. So if you want it, it's yours. So I managed to tie up the deal for 155. 1-bedroom flat in Enfield with a lease of 64 years left on it. So with this particular deal, I got a 13-year mortgage. Yeah, so 13-year mortgage, 2-year fixed. Now, in this particular property, the lease extension has been gone through already, which is fine. This is just a snippet of lease extension documentation. So this one here was a voluntary lease extension. So I didn't serve them with a section 42 notice, just a voluntary one. So written to them, asked them if they wanted to, or basically if I can extend the lease, and then they said yes. I've asked for an additional 90 years on top of what it is now. And the premium for this one is £15,466. Now, the ground rent is kind of highish, but I'll go for that in a minute. It's £250 per annum, and this is doubling every 20 years. And then it's going to be capped at £1,000 a year once it obviously reaches its cap. So normally that one's quite a bit high, because normally when you extend the lease, a lot of the time I try to get it down to maybe, I don't know, peppercorn ground rent, which is 0, or maybe just keep it to like £100 per annum. But because this premium wasn't so bad, it's like 15,000-ish, and I'm getting 90 years on top of it. So I thought, you know what, it's not so bad. 250 is okay, because I'll just absorb it. Now, point number 5, it says the costs. So when you're doing a lease extension, you have to pay for your solicitor's fees and the freeholder's solicitor's fees. And in this case, it was 1,100 plus VAT on top of the premium. So this was a voluntary lease extension, not section 42. Wrote to them, we negotiated a little bit, and then they came back with this final figure, and this one I accepted. Now, let's go through some of the actual figures now. So I purchased it for 155,000. The actual lease extension cost was 15,466. I had to pay their solicitor's fees of 1,100 plus the VAT. So that came in at 1,320. My solicitor's fees, including VAT, was 740. I had to pay for their surveyor to go and survey the property so they can come back with a premium. That was £800. So all in total, including the purchase price, was £173,366. Now, because I know the area and I've got 2 in that block already, the end value of this particular flat is valued at 225,000. So the uplift in value from what I've purchased this at compared to the end value, and obviously all the fees and so forth, the uplift is about £51,634. So this in theory is an uplift of about 29.8%. So which is higher than my normal estimate, because I always average it between 20 to 25% in terms of uplift, but this one wasn't so bad. So that's why I didn't mind with the ground rent being, the ground rent was approximately what, £250 a year. So because the uplift was so high, I didn't mind absorbing the £250 ground rent. Because like I said, normally the ground rent would go for 0 or at worst £100 a year, but this one was £250. But because this uplift was higher than normal, I thought, you know what, let me just go with it, because that money I can absorb going forward. So for this purchase, I put down a 25% deposit, which was £38,750. The broker fee, so a survey fee was 0, because this particular deal came with a free survey. So I went with that. Broker fee, £250. Stamp duty was 5,250. The solicitor's fees on my end was 1,500. So all in to purchase it was £45,500. That's to purchase the property. And then the actual lease extension costs, which means the lease extension premium for their solicitors, my solicitors, the surveyors, all came in at £18,366. So overall, with this particular one, my total spending would have been about 63,866. So that's all of the money that I inputted into the deal. Now, when it comes to the refinancing part, I bought it for 155,000 with an initial deposit. So that means I've got £116,250 left, which is the 75% that I actually owe the mortgage company. Now, when I refinance it, after I've extended the mortgage, or extended the lease, should I say, so I refinanced it at 225. That means it's 75% loan to value. So that means I've got a new mortgage of £168,750. So the uplift from my initial mortgage to my remortgage is £52,500. So that's what I've created in terms of an uplift. Now, as I said before, my initial spend with all of my fees and lease extension costs, deposit, etc., everything came in at £63,866. So that works out. If I was to remortgage and take the cash out, I'm extracting 82.2% of my funds. So I'm only leaving in a small amount. So it's not bad, not bad at all. But normally what I do, I go for maybe leaving in about 75% of it. Actually, sorry, extracting 75% of it. But in this case, like I said, because uplift was so high, uplift was about 29 point something percent. This means that I can extract a bit more than normal. So it's almost like one of Damien's deals where you can pull out all of your money, but not quite. Yeah, so with this one as well, obviously, I've got rental income coming in. So the tenant's in there and she's paying rent, so it's fine. So I've got roughly about a 52K uplift with that particular property, but I'm also getting rental income per month. So it's a 2-year fixed, 24 months, and I'm paying £314.51 for the mortgage, fixed rate for 2 years. The service charge for this one is £93 a month. So all in, my total expenses is £407.51. Now, as you probably know already, I go under the guarantee rent scheme most of the time. So with this particular property, I'm getting £950 guaranteed rent. So when you minus the £407.51 of this particular property, it's £542.49 that I'm making per month. if I was to do it on the open market, then I could probably get 1,100 for it, for the 1-bedroom flat. And then I'd minus the 407.51, and then probably minus another maybe £70 in terms of agents fees. So if I was to have it on open market, I could probably make over £600 profit per month. But my strategy is just to have regular cash flow coming in. So I'd rather it be guaranteed than having the risk of a tenant not paying, or paying a little bit of it, or paying half of it. I just like the guaranteed rent, so the regular income coming in for the remainder of obviously how long that I keep the property. All right, so that's the end of that example, 1-bedroom flat that I bought recently or last year. Now, the lease extension process, you've got 2 different ways of extending the lease. The first one is a voluntary lease extension, and the second one is serving a Section 42 notice to the freeholder. A majority of the time, I like to use the voluntary lease extension method. This is where you contact the freeholder and ask for, obviously, the length of the lease to be extended. Or you can ask them to maybe purchase the freehold. It depends on what type of flat you have. If it's a conversion, then a lot of the time, you can maybe try and buy the freehold from the freeholder, which I've done in the past as well. So with that previous example that I showed you, that was a voluntary lease extension. So I contacted the owner, which is the freeholder, and negotiated with them. And then we came to an agreement and we settled it. As you saw, it was 15,000 and some change to extend the lease. Now, with this method as well, you need to own the property for at least a minimum of 2 years before you can apply to extend the lease. But if you're going through the purchase, you can also ask your solicitor to ask the freeholder if they're willing to extend the lease before the 2 years is up, if you're doing it the voluntary method. Another way you could do it, if you're going through the purchase, is asking the vendor, the current vendor, to serve a Section 42 notice on your behalf. And then when you complete, you transfer it over to your name so you can finish off the notice period. So that's another way of getting around the 2-year ownership of owning a residential property. So for those that don't know, a Section 42 notice is a formal request from a leaseholder to the freeholder or landlord, which enables them to apply for a lease extension of a minimum of 90 years on top of what the lease is at the moment, along with a peppercorn ground rent, which means the ground rent will be reduced to 0. So this is a formal notice, and it's best to get your solicitor or the vendor solicitor to do that for you on your behalf. It's not worth doing it by yourself, because if you get the wording wrong, then they can always throw it out. I mean, it's going to be like issues, if you know what I mean. So just to recap on this point, you can always do a voluntary lease extension during the purchase or after the purchase without owning the property for 2 years. I've done it like many times. But if you're going to do it after you purchase a property, make sure you get your solicitor to contact the freeholder just to get their permission. So when you do complete, then there's no issues in you having to wait 2 years or before 2 years to extend it. So it's better that way. Now, the lease length, when you're extending the lease, a lot of the time you have extended to 99 years, 125 years, or 90 years above what it currently is. With this previous example, what I just did and went through, I asked them initially for 90 years above what it is at the moment with a peppercorn ground rent, but they came up with quite a high fee. So I negotiated it down a bit, and then what they did, they added the lower cost in a way onto the ground rent. That's why the ground rent was a bit higher than normal. But because I'm making so much from the uplift, that's why I thought, you know what, just go ahead with it and absorb it. But yeah, so 99 years, 125 years, or 90 years above what it is at the moment. Those are the main 3 ways or lengths that you can extend the lease. Now, I'm doing another one at the moment. This is a separate one that's going through now with one of my other properties. Now, this freeholder has asked, we've agreed a fee actually, this is a voluntary one. So going back and forth, just maybe 2 or 3 letters, and then we agreed on a fee. for this voluntary lease extension. So this one, they've agreed to extend it to by 90 years on top of what it is now. This one was 62 years left on it. And we've agreed a premium and 90 years on top of what it is now. And the ground rent is going to be 0, which is good. So with them, they wrote to my solicitor on the 6th of September. And now, so from that letter, what they've sent on 6th of September, things have to get moving, because it says if we don't complete within the first 3 months of this letter, then time will lapse. I mean, after that, basically what they've agreed to before may not be valid. And then I've got to do the whole process again. So they give me 3 months to complete this full lease extension process. But it's because we've agreed a fee already, it shouldn't be a problem with this one, because I've never gone over the 3 month period, which is fine. And for their fees for this one, it's £1,250 plus the VAT. And then I've added on an extra £15 for their disbursements. So every solicitor, for acting on behalf of the freeholder, will give you some sort of variation in terms of their fees. But on average, it's anything between, I don't know, 1,200 to 1,500. And you have to pay back as well as your solicitor's fees. So this one is what's going through now. All right. So whenever you get the premium agreed, make sure you complete within that 3 month window. Otherwise, you might lose some of your fees, and they're entitled to, by law, to not carry or not go ahead of it, basically. And then you've got to pay some more premiums again on top of that. But so far, in my 20 years, I haven't experienced any of that. So as long as you've got a decent solicitor, then you should be fine, I reckon. All right. So the lease extension. How do you find out the cost of an estimate of a lease extension? Can you all see the screen still?
Yes, mate.
Yeah.
Yes,
all right, that's all right. All right. So lease extension cost estimates. There's about 5 or 6 different ways that you can get the actual idea of how much it will cost to extend the lease. Now, with one of mine, my solicitor, who's local to the area, she's that previous one, but I just showed you about letter, she's done a couple of lease extensions in that same block herself. So I mentioned to her that I've asked her, can you represent me for this lease extension, what I'm doing now? I mean, she said yes. She said, which one is it? I said, Glendine Court. She said, oh, we done one of them last year. I mean, she looked back through her files. I mean, she showed me, not showed me, but she told me the cost of that particular lease extension. So when I was negotiating with the freeholder, I knew exactly what sort of price I should be getting. So that's one way of doing it. So local solicitor knowledge is a good thing to do as well, a good thing to have. Number 2, whenever my solicitor does not know, I've always asked my lease extension surveyor. He's got an accurate calculator on his computer in terms of the lease extension costs. So I know going forward, if I'm negotiating again, I'll just come back to him and say, look, Andrew, does this look right? Is it too much? Is it too low, too high, whatever it is? And then he'll just email back and say, yeah, that looks reasonable, or no, it shouldn't be this much. That's number 2. Number 3, you can always ask or knock on some of the doors in that same block. So for example, if you've got 9 flats in that block, the chances are one of them in that block would have extended the lease at some point. So some of them might be tenanted, but at least leave a note, or if an owner occupier, you can always ask one of them if they've extended the lease in the block. And then if they have, you can get a rough idea of how much it will cost. In some cases, you can contact the freeholder directly. So with some of mine flats, it's in a different complex, but it's the same freeholder to some of the other flats that I hold. So because they know who I am, I've written them a letter in the past and said, yeah, I own 53 Gartons, but I'm looking for a lease extension in 23 Stonehorse. So because they know who I am, they'll write back to me and they've given me a quote because they know who I am. If you come off the street and if they have no record of you, that might be a bit tricky, but that's another way of doing it. Yeah. So if you've got flats with that particular freeholder, you can contact them directly, and then They can give you an idea of a lease extension premium. Number 5, yeah, done that to actually, yeah, same one. Number 5 and number 3 are the same. And then number 6 is to use the internet. So you've got lease extension calculators online. At the top of the screen, you've got myleasehold.co.uk. That's quite a good one. And you've also got lease-advice.org. Those 2 are quite good if you don't have access to a lease extension surveyor or a solicitor or don't contact a freeholder. These ones are quite good. And the accuracy is not too bad. It's not too bad. They always give you maybe a swing, the ones I'm looking at, a swing of maybe about 4 to 5 grand either way. But these calculators are quite accurate. So they're worth using just to get an idea of the lease extension cost before you actually go ahead with your deal.
Jay?
Yeah.
I can't screen. I don't know if it's just me, but I can't see anything on your screen.
Okay, yeah. I'll unpause it and then I'll put it back, right? All right. Can you see it now?
Yep,
I can
that's
see it though.
Yeah, come back now,
Yep.
yeah? All right.
Yep.
We're good. All right, yeah, so these ones are the websites that you can use to actually find the lease extension estimates. Yeah, these 2 are quite good. All right, so where do I find these properties? So number 1 is the internet. You can either use Rightmove, Zoopla, onthemarket.com. Those ones are quite popular. What I normally do is sort by lowest price, and I filter out all of the ones which says on Rightmove, for example, I take out retirement homes, I take out new builds, and I take out shared ownership ones or help to buy properties. So I put the filter, don't show. They go out, and when I change it to lowest price. Now, normally the ones with the lowest leases are the lowest price ones, and they come up first on the list. That's one way of doing it. Number 2, I've got links with local agents that I built up over the years. So that's one of the advantages of buying in the same area. When you buy in the same area over a number of years, then you build up a rapport with those agents, and then they're more likely to contact you first if you have any good deals come onto the market. So that's number 2 is what I've been using a lot. So I hardly find them on Rightmove or Zoopla or so forth. Normally they just contact me and they let me know that, yeah, we've got one coming in next week. If you've got the funds there, come in and obviously view it. If not, we'll tell them when the next one's coming up. And number 3, I've got a lot of property friends. So they're always looking for their kind of properties, but sometimes they might see, oh, there's one with a short lease. They'll just ping it over to me and say, yeah, Jay, you've seen this property with a short lease, might be interested in it. So it's good to have like a circle of friends, because they can always refer you to properties to yourself if you've missed them. Those are the main 3 ways that I find them. All right, so if anyone wants to contact me, I'm on Instagram, also on LinkedIn, and obviously I'm also on Clubhouse. Oh yeah, so these are the strategies that I use basically. On the left-hand side, most of them are the BRRRR strategies. I've got the BER, which I say is buy, extend the lease, rent it out. I also have obviously some where I do the triple threat. I might buy the property, extend the lease, I might refurb it, refinance, and then repeat. But I also do vanilla buy-to-lets as well. Okay, so what I'll do, I'll open up to any questions. If anyone has any questions that they want to ask.
Hi,
Yeah.
JP.
Hi.
Hi, it's Heidi. How are you, mate? All right?
Yeah, good, thanks. Yourself?
Yeah, very good. That was very interesting. I enjoyed that discussion. I just wanted to go back to where you said that you saw the first flat example you showed us, and you said that you purchased it for 155, and you just knew that if you extend the lease, you're going to get a decent increase in property value, and it went right up to 225. How do you get a feel of how much extending a lease is going to actually increase the value of the property you're buying?
Yes, with me, I always look at the potential end value. So I do my research. So I either use Rightmove or I ask the local agents how much it will cost, or say how much the value of that particular property is in that block. But I've got a feel in the area anyway, because I've got a lot of flats in that particular area, so I know roughly how much they're going to cost. But so I have a look at the agent, as in ask the agent, or I look at previous sold prices and current prices of those particular properties online.
Okay, perfect.
And then I work backwards.
So you can get some advice from the agents. They would know roughly if you did this, it's going to go up to this much. You get some opinions.
Exactly.
Perfect. Okay, cheers.
Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear me? Hi, Jay. It's Eddie. You right, man?
Hi, not too bad. Yourself?
I'm good, man. Great presentation. I'm driving, so I have to be really careful. But quick question then. So which strategy is the best to actually, you guys were talking about when we spoke before about flipping a property. So I see with one of the first one you mentioned, you put it on a 2-year deal. So if I try to flip it that way, then I'll have a penalty of God knows how many thousands. So what's the easiest way to flip it with the lowest kind of penalty? Does that make sense?
Yeah. So the two options.
Is it not? It's not extending the lease. That's not the process I would use. I'd use a different thing.
Oh, what? Not lease extension? You're talking about something else?
No, I don't mind doing the lease extension, but can I do the lease extension and flip it without incurring fees? Do I have to tie myself into a 2-year deal, etc., etc.? How do I get around that? Or the fee that would? Yeah. Because I want to pull the money out straight away. Let's put it that way. So I'm trying to build up a pot of capital. That makes sense.
Okay. Yeah. So number one, what you could do, I'll put mine on 2-year fix. Sometimes you might be able to do it on a variable mortgage.
Right.
So if you extend the lease, obviously in the first 3 months or 6 months or whatever it is, and then after the 6-month period, maybe put it on the market and then sell it after that.
Right.
Number two, you could probably buy, not probably, but you can buy it either by bridging or by cash. And then that way, you don't incur any early repayment charges, but bridging is a bit more expensive. But if you buy it cash, then obviously there's no fees involved.
Cash is out of the question.
Yeah.
So when you say they extend the lease after 6 months, or the owner waives that period where I have to wait for them to extend the lease, if I sell, do I not have fees because I've sold in terms of the mortgage that I took out for X amount? It doesn't work that way, does it? If I sell and I don't have those fees associated with the mortgage length, is that right?
Yeah, if it's like a 2-year fix, then they're gonna, if you break it within the first year, then you got to pay early repayment charges.
Right.
Yeah, but if you,
so is there no way around that? Is that what you're saying in terms of?
You could do a 1-year fixed. There are some 1-year fixed out there, but the rates might be a bit higher, or you do a variable rate.
Oh, okay, so a variable rate is pretty good in this. All right, fine. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, so if you do a variable rate, rates are going to be a bit higher. Like with these ones, I was getting like 2.59 or 2.79 or, no, I mean, but if you do a variable rate, it might be a bit higher. It might be in the threes. It might be like 3.14 or 3.59. So they know that you might be exiting that product within a short period of time. That's why
so the way around it for me would be probably variable rate, then I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for the first year.
If I want to turn it over, sell it, then I need to have a variable rate, and that way it's easier.
Yeah, exactly. And plus as well, depending on how you're going to extend the lease, if you do it within the first 3 months or so, it might take a little while to be registered with land registry, because your solicitor will send it off to land registry. I mean, because there's some delays at the moment because of COVID, it might take another 3 months to be registered.
Cool.
So it's got to be officially registered before you can actually sell it on.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
All right, that's good. That's good intel. I'll be on your case for more intel anyway.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you very much, man. I appreciate you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Hey, JP, Sally, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You right there?
Yeah. I just want to thank you very much for your presentation, by the way, and thank you for sending the link through Instagram for remembering me on that. So I have to give you more shout out in the early morning runs then.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Just a quick one. Well, not a quick one. I got two things. One, if it's possible to either get a copy of the recording for the Zoom call. I think I missed out some things in the beginning. The other question I wanted to ask is, now currently, I know the market is changing with COVID in terms of backlog. How long should you allow for the extension to go through? before you can, let's say, remortgage or before you can actually kind of remortgage property? Do you need to actually wait until everything is fully completed, and then you can do remortgage, I'm guessing? So I was going to get the length of time it will show up on land register and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, no, on the normal circumstances,
Yeah.
it can be done. Well, this is pre-COVID, right? Pre-COVID,
Yeah.
it can take between 6 to 8 weeks. But now there's a bit of a delay, so it could take. It's not fully sure, but in my experience so far, probably going to be between 3 to 6 months at the moment in terms of a delay.
I honestly have not even watched this on stopwatch at all.
Okay. Yeah, about 3 to 6 months, because unless things speed up, once things start to open up, and then obviously land registry staff go back to the offices and so forth. Yeah, within about 3 to 6 months, you should be registered. But normally it's 6 to 8 weeks. Normally, in my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. That's great to hear. And do you mind just repeating for me the mortgage guys who can actually do the mortgages, the 2 brokers or 5 brokers you mentioned? Sorry.
Oh yeah. So with mortgages.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's all right. With the mortgages, there's 5 that I use or have used. The first one is Keystone Mortgages.
Yeah, Keystone. Yeah.
Yeah. The second one is the mortgage lender.
Okay, the mortgage lender. Yeah.
Then you have Foundation Home Loans.
Yeah, Foundation Home Loans. Yeah.
Yeah. You have Land Bay.
The Land Bay. Yeah.
And you have Kensington. Now with Kensington will offer you, or can offer you, depending on the rental calculation, they can offer you 80% loan to value, which means you've got to put down 20% deposit.
Okay, 20% deposit. Yeah.
And their rates aren't too bad. Last time I checked, it was like 3.99% for an 80% loan to value deal, fixed for 2 years, and the arrangement fee was 1999.
And it's 199, yeah.
Yeah, that changes daily or weekly. I mean, their last 75% deal with Kensington, which is 25% deposit. That one was 2.99 fixed for 2 years, and the arrangement fee for that one was 995.
1995, yeah.
995, yeah.
Okay, that's not too bad.
And then there's one other one actually. With those lenders that I mentioned.
Yeah.
Like I was saying before, at the end of the mortgage term, the lease cannot be lower than 50 years at the end of the term. So with this example, what I've done here, the previous one, this one, I got a 13-year mortgage because at the end of the term, the lease cannot be lower than 50 years.
Okay,
yeah. But obviously before then, I would have extended the lease anyway, so it's fine. But that's what they do. And there's one other one called Capital Home Loans, which is, they've been around for a while, and their end of term is 40 years. Right? But I don't know what their rates are, but the lease can be 40 years at the end of the mortgage term. All right?
Thanks so much, JP, but I appreciate it.
It's all right. And the recording, you got to speak to Nick about. I think it's only available in the members lounge on the Property 101 group. So you might have to sign up. But Nick can mention that to you afterwards. We'll talk about it after.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that part. Okay, Property 101 club, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I'll make a note of that.
Mm-hmm.
And just the final one. If somehow you manage to get, I'm thinking if you to get an investor who, let's say, can purchase the property out in cash in terms of buying it and also extending it, but then maybe you want to use a mortgage later on to pull the money out. Is there any particular lender you recommend for that? That only just basically purely on the rental income of the property? Or do you reckon it'll be like a normal standard buy to let kind of like mortgage?
Yeah, normal standard buy to let.
Yeah.
With these ones as well, I've bought under my own name. I haven't bought for a limited. With the rental calculation, with most of these, they want you to have 145% rental income, and for the limited, it's a bit lower. So it's 145%, and that's like 5.5, yeah, 5.5% above that. Yeah, the stress test is 5.5% for both of them, and the rental calculations for an individual is 145%, and for a limited company, it came at 125%. So yeah, obviously it's more favoring towards limited companies in this case, but these ones are bought under my name. So, but yeah, that's probably my favorite one. Probably foundation home loans, because they're quite good. And second is the mortgage lender. Those two I like the most. With the mortgage lender, there's no minimum income. Yeah, so you can buy it without having to show them that you earn a minimum of 25,000 a year or anything like that.
Okay.
So,
Okay. That's great. Because I was kind of gearing towards that. Yeah, we have to be kind of like a minimum certain mortgages. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And that was the mortgage lender, no?
Yeah, the mortgage lender have no minimum income requirement.
Okay, so they can really pretty much base on the property income, no?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're quite good. The rates are quite good as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Thank you very much, JP. Appreciate that.
All right, you're welcome. You're welcome.
Hey, JP, it's Isaac. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thanks. You, yourself?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Yeah, my question's a quick one. Actually, I'm going to have two quick questions, if that's all right. And thank you for doing this, by the way. I think even though I've heard you talk about this on Clubhouse, it's nice to kind of hear it in a little bit more of a slower pace, because I think there's a lot more detail that I've picked up here, so super valuable. I was just going to say, so first question, with the lenders that you're talking about, when you're talking about 80%, are you talking about 80% of current value, or are these lenders recognizing the future value once you extend the lease, or are there lenders out there who do recognize if you decide to go down a lease extension route, are they willing to lend to you up to the market value of the extended lease?
Oh yeah, now with these five, they lend to you on the current value.
Okay, cool. So
Yeah,
you're plugging the gap, or so you're negotiating down at current value, and then you're realizing the future value down the road, basically. So you're having to put in your cash. There's no way of kind of, I guess, chopping it up to try and reduce your cash involvement. Basically, you have to put something in.
Yeah, you got to put something in. Yeah, these type of deals I'm doing, you have to have some cash initially to start it, and then you can take out a majority of your cash afterwards. Yeah.
Okay.
But I think what you're mentioning there, though, I think some bridging lenders might be able to do what you just mentioned, where they lend on the potential end value of it. But,
okay.
Yeah.
But I'm guessing they'll take some security or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll need something. My second question is quite interesting, the fact that you obviously invest in your personal name. I know it's been kind of hot topic, everyone jumping towards investing in companies. I guess I just out of curiosity, how come you still choose to do it in your personal name with all of the changes that have come in with Section 24? You don't have to go into it in detail, but just out of curiosity.
Yeah, so basically what happened when George Osborne changed the rules, I think it was 2014-ish, when he said that interest payments up to 20% can't be, or after 20% can't be claimed. I sat down with my tax advisor, stroke accountant, and he went through all of my figures. So by that time, I think I must have had, not even too sure, maybe about 18 properties or so, something like that by then. And then I had some income coming in from elsewhere as well. And then we looked at everything, and then he just said that it's not worth you starting to buy. Well, basically, he asked me as well, what do you want to use the money for? So I wanted to use that's my personal use, like holidays, experiences, cars, etc., etc. So he said to me, based on all of what you told me today and your current earnings, there's no point in you going for a limited company. You may as well just use it under your personal name. Because my probably when I get a bit older, my main aim is probably not to have any mortgages. So the aim is to probably pay them all off eventually, like an exit strategy. And then if you don't have any mortgages in the future, I mean, Section 24 doesn't apply to you. It only applies to interest payments. But if you have no interest payments in the future, then it won't apply to you. Plus as well, if I buy through a limited company, I've got to pay 19% corporation tax at the moment. And Rishi said that Rishi, the Chancellor, is going to increase it eventually to 25%. But at the moment, it's 19% corporation tax. And then any money that I extract out of a company, I would have to pay 37.5% dividend tax. So that's like the additional tax bracket based on what I'm currently earning altogether. So effectively, I'm more or less being taxed 50% of my income. So he just said to me, it's not worth it. If I was getting taxed, the different tax rates are 7.5%, 32.5% if you're a higher rates taxpayer, and 37.5% if you're an additional taxpayer. If you're in the first two categories, then it's not so bad. You've got to think about what you want to do. If you're in the additional tax bracket, then it's probably not worth it because you're going to be taxed over half if you try and extract the money out of the company. Obviously, some people will leave the money in their company so they can build. And then if they want to use it, then that's a different story if they want to try and extract it. Because the first £2,000 that you extract from the company is tax-free. And then after that, you get paid dividend tax when you record it on your SA302 form. But it depends on what your end goal is as well. Because you might want to leave it in the company and build your portfolio up because you're going to be paying less tax. But that income or that profit, you're not really going to use much of it because you're leaving it in the company. So you might leave it for your family members or for your children, your son, your daughter, your siblings, and so forth. You can leave it in there, let them benefit from it, that's fine. Or another way you can do it is maybe start using your personal tax allowance of 12,500 and start extracting it little by little. Or you can put maybe family members on the payroll and start paying them little by little so they can use their tax allowance. But I just think of it from my personal view, if I'm going to use the money that I'm making from the property, what's in the company, I don't want to be taxed too much by extracting it out. So what I've done, I just bought basically 2 properties. I'm paying about an extra £1 a month in tax. So I bought 2 properties. Those 2 properties are just paying for my extra tax. I mean, the rest of it is just mine. Yeah, but with limited companies, there's not one size fits all. So it depends on your personal circumstances. So if you're going to build, it's good, probably leave it in there just so you can accumulate properties faster. Or if you can leave some to your children or your family members, then yeah, that's a good idea. But if you're going to use the money day to day for your personal use, then it might not be a good idea. But it's always best to speak to your tax advisor or your accountant to get your overall picture. I mean, they can decide what's best for you personally.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. That's a lot more information than I thought you were going to share. And like you said, it always comes down to your personal circumstances. I think after the announcements today, everyone should be talking to their tax advisor, to be fair. But yeah, thank you for that, Jay, and yeah, all the best, man.
All right, you're welcome. Thanks.
Hi, Jason. Is it Sam Fongo here?
Oh, Sam. Hi,
yeah,
Sam.
Yeah, good. Yeah, great presentation. Great knowledge there. Okay, just before I ask a question, I'm just going to make a comment too. I think there's a chapter that asks about the flipping, how best to structure the flipping. Apart, you gave him 2 great examples, 2 great ways of doing it. I'm going to suggest a 3rd way as well, where depending on the relationship with the vendors, they might be able to do a delayed completion and then not actually have to own it and then flip it. But that, again, it just depends on how well they manage the relationship with the vendors. But my question really is, in terms of buying where Section 42 has been served for you, often I see on some auction lots where I would probably expect that the fee, the extension before about 100, but I see people have served Section 42 with a very low number, maybe 40,000, as opposed to what I think it should be. What's your best advice? Is it best not to have a Section 42 served, or have someone that serves it and makes a very low borrow offer? Which one would you best advise?
The first part of the question, I missed the first part of it.
No, the first part was just a comment about the guy that wanted to structure.
Yeah.
Saying that they can do a delay and they not have to own it at all if they have a good relationship with with the vendor. Then the question itself is about Section 42 service before you buy it, where the vendor serves it and then you inherit it. Okay, when you serve the Section 42, you actually propose a number, right? I've seen some people that propose a very low number compared to what I think it should be. So my question is it best for someone to serve the Section 42 and give a very low number, or rather let you serve it yourself?
I
Is there any
reckon
benefit having someone serve a very low number?
Yeah, as in low numbers in that the lease, sorry, but low numbers in the lease extension cost, you mean?
Cost, that's right, yeah. So
Yeah,
let's
yeah.
say it might be, you think it's 80,000, but someone who served it and asked for, and put a number of 45,000, for example. Is there any violation in that at all?
Probably not really. What you might have to do, if they're serving it on your behalf, I would get your solicitor to serve it for them. Obviously, they've got a solicitor representing them in terms of the sale of their property. But in terms of a Section 42 notice, I would get your solicitor to serve it on their behalf. At least that way you can negotiate the price. Because if the solicitor is doing it, and then it comes up with a premium that's quite high, then you're in for a bad deal. So yeah, I'd do it on their behalf with your solicitor. And then as well, even then, what I would do as well is have a backup. I'd also get my solicitor to write to the freeholder as the second option of extending the lease before owning the property for 2 years. If at the end of it, I don't know, like you've agreed a Section 42 notice fee of X amount, but you're not happy with it, and you've used their solicitors, but at least have the voluntary lease extension option afterwards after you complete. So that gives you option to negotiate with them afterwards. So that can be a plan B.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Yeah, because I think what I find is when the vendors serve it, they tend to put a low number, and then if you're buying it, and you might think, oh, there's a low number been asked for Section 42, which might not be very accurate. But yeah, thanks. It's a great response. Thank you, Jason.
All right, you're welcome.
JB, can you hear me? Sorry, Sally again.
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I thought I just asked another question. I don't know if anyone did wanted to go. I didn't hear anything at the moment, but just a quick one. I think this hopefully will also benefit everyone. Like I've been obviously taking a lot of notes while everyone's asking questions as well. I just want to get pretty much your view, JP, in terms of the new legislation hasn't come into force yet regarding lease extension. I just want to get your views around that, which obviously they're planning to get rid of them, and would there be any kind of potential benefit for us in the future? I mean, I just want to get your views in terms of how you see that playing out.
Yeah, so at the moment, we've delayed it again. So I think the next review, or it's going to be 2023, 2024. That's when we're going to start to review it again. But as far as I can tell, from what the initial documentation states, if your lease is above 80 years, then you might not get much benefit, or the premiums might even go up if you extend the lease and your lease is above 80 years. If your lease is below 80 years, then you're more likely to benefit from the new reforms that are coming in. So that's what I've seen so far. Yeah. So if it's above 80 years and you want to extend the lease, I'll extend it now before the premiums in theory could potentially go up. And if it's under 80 years at the moment, like what I'm doing with most of mine, in theory, the premium should be cheaper if you're waiting until 2023, 2024, if it goes through then. That's my initial readings of that report that they published for residential properties only.
Sorry, Jason, can I quickly ask regarding that as well? Is that okay?
Yeah. Fine.
Because I have a lease that is 73 years, and I did ask my solicitor then, and she actually said, yes, there's this thing coming on, so just hang on now. So that's the decision I've taken for now. But based on what you're saying now, do you think I should still wait, or what would you advise?
The thing is, it's hard to say, but in my personal situation, I'm still going ahead with my lease extension because they've said that they were going to change the laws before, and then it's been delayed by another 2-3 years. So what's to say in 2-3 years' time that we don't delay it again? I mean, every year that you wait, your premium for that lease extension is going to go up bit by bit by bit. So I'm not sure if it's worth waiting, I don't know, another 2-3 years. But that could be another, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 grand on top of what the premium is now. So it might be cheaper for you when they do it, but that might be countered against the rise in the premium.
Exactly.
What's going to happen then, if you know what I mean? So for me, I'm just going ahead with it now. It's like the old saying, if you buy property and wait, you don't wait to buy. So similar to that. But yeah, personally, I'd go ahead because every year that you wait, it could add on to your premium. Yeah, if you're in central London, for example, like in Mayfair, Chelsea, Regent's Park, then maybe it might be worth waiting. But if you're in the regions that I'm in, like 155,000, 200,000 for a flat, then maybe I'll still go ahead now. Personally, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're right, you're welcome.
Yes, Jay, Mr. Lover.
Damien, how you doing?
Brother, sorry I missed the film. I had Wi-Fi issues and frigging laptop issues and Zoom kicking me out of the frigging Zoom meeting issues. But I got the majority of that, buddy. Listen, you're not just a pretty face, are you? Look at you, you put all that time together to do them sexy slides and move your capital letters. I was like, come on, Jay.
Yeah, has to be done.
But before I get started, just quickly, Ricky, stop flexing your frigging biceps. That's all I keep seeing in the screen is Ricky flexing his biceps. Look, you just see him sitting there flexing, like his arms need to look at that, like they need to look any bigger. And frigging Norman just now looking at the phone rather than driving his lorry. I thought that saying, Norman, put the phone down and concentrate on the road. I thought the guy was gonna have an accident. But just quickly, Jay, I got a couple of questions for you. But before we jump to them, just to quickly, if you don't mind me commenting on what some of the guys said just there, just to share my little 2 pence worth, if that's all right with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
In regards to like reviews things, buddy, I'm in the same boat as you, right? Nobody knows, and that's why you're playing it from that angle. And you know what? I've been hearing about these review things for frigging years, but I tell you this, there's so many very rich and powerful people that own a hell of a lot of freeholds, right? I can't see them passing anything that is going to not work in their favor. What I feel is going to happen, and again, I don't know, what I feel is going to happen is there's going to be some benefits to leaseholders. You know, maybe it's going to be easier to do the types of alterations that we want to do. Maybe the whole process of renewing your lease is going to get easier and maybe a bit fairer, but I can't see how they're going to make it more financially beneficial for leaseholders, because people that own freeholds right now, you're basically going to be devaluing their asset. So again, I don't know, but me personally, I'm with you. I'm renewing leases now. I'm not waiting. I fully agree that every year that goes by, that lease is getting shorter, and therefore the price of the renewal is going up. So whatever savings you might get, and look how many years they've been talking about this for, and they just keep delaying it and delaying it and delaying it and delaying it. So in regards to matey that asked about the reviews there, which is a really good question, my personal opinion is the same as yours, which is just don't hang around for that. And I don't think we're going to get, maybe I'm going to be proved wrong, right? But I don't think we're going to get much of a discount. Regarding Isaac's question, hi Isaac, by the way, if you tap into the masterclass that we done last week or the week before with Mark, and he's crowdfunding, because you're right, in regards to what Isaac said when he said, is there a way of taking into account the existing, I actually don't want to put our money down, and neither do I. You want to, whatever you're going to be doing on day one, you want to put your money out straight away. But like he rightly said, if you do that a creative way by using bridging, then there's going to be other security that you need to put in place, right? But the masterclass that was done the Wednesday before last by Mark, he showed us very clearly how you can do this using crowdfunding. And the difference between crowdfunding and bridging, the rates weren't that different. He was still 1% a month. But the difference between crowdfunding and bridging was he was giving you like 90% of the GDV. He wants you to put a bit of money in. So he wants you to have a bit of skin in the game, but you could borrow so much more using no other security if the deal was right. And you wouldn't need to put in, yeah, like I said, additional security or more than 10% he was asking for. But if the deal was right, you could probably push him to 5%. So I would go and watch that, Isaac, like any one of you that didn't catch that 2 weeks ago, go and watch that. I've said it numerous times that one opened my eyes with the conversations that I had with Mark leading up to that, because I kind of knew what he was offering, but it could be a game changer to a lot of you. So regarding that, Isaac, go and see that masterclass that's in the members lounge in regards to what Mark done, because you've got to find that super useful. Mate either asked about buying a property now and selling it and flipping it and not paying no fees, and you was talking about variable rates or fixed rates. What you're looking for, pal, is no tie-ins. Whatever rate you take, variable or fixed, you just want a mortgage product that's got no tie-ins. And even sometimes these mortgage products with tie-ins, just pay the penalty. Like, it's not really like a big deal. I know a lot of brokers say, oh, you shouldn't do that. That's more because they're pushing you into bridging, but I've done that a few times. It ain't really been an issue. So there was the 3 things I wanted to add. Right, Jay, my 2 questions to you. The first one is renewing the lease, right? It seems that your strategy involves you buying the property, and then once you've bought it, you then renew the lease. And then whenever you get a chance, you're going to do a remortgage on it, right? And pull whatever money back you want to pull back. Am I right in saying that? Do you renew the leases after purchase?
Yeah, most of them. There was one what I did last year, I think it was June, where the person had served the Section 42 notice already, but she didn't have the cash to actually pay for the lease extension. So part of my role, or part of my position, was to complete, exchange, and extend the lease all on the same day. So we did that once, but she had originally served this Section 42 notice before. But a majority of them are yes, like what you mentioned.
Excellent. Now you see that one scenario there. How did you like that? What did you think of the way that went compared to the other ways that you've done it?
Now that one, because I didn't have any control of what the premium price was, I didn't really like it that way. But because the premium price was fine, that one was again around the £16,000 mark. That one wasn't too bad. But if, for example, if you've agreed a fee already, or the vendors agreed a fee with a freeholder already, and it's not a fee that fits in with your figures, then it could be a bad deal. So
Isn't it mad how people like just there what you saying, you prefer to do it the voluntary way. I actually prefer to do the Section 42 notice way, and I prefer to do it the way that we just spoke about there, rather than the other way, because even though there might be a difference in the premium you're going to pay, would you not have had to put down less money on the purchase?
Not cash. Yeah, not in this case. Not in the last case. No, not in the last.
I suppose 16 grand is not really a big deal, but if the lease renewal was like 50 grand,
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it might be a bit more of a difference, right? And then the last question, and we spoke about this in the room, but I've never really asked you about it. What's your on the reconfiguring of these flats when you've got the option to do it? Is that something that you like to look at?
Yeah. So basically, whenever the agents come up to me with a property, again, similar to you, I look at the floor plans. So some of them might have work these doing to it, like a BRR. Some of them I can reconfigure it from 1 bed to a 2 bed, or 2 bed to a 3 bed. And it might have obviously a short lease as well. So depending on what they give me and offer me, then sometimes I reconfigure it afterwards. So I extend the lease, and then after I've extended the lease, then I reconfigure it and give it a refurb. So like a triple threat in some cases. But yeah, I look for that as well.
I heard you say that. I heard you said it being triple threat. I was going to say to you, what was the triple threat? Yeah, you're going to get. I mean, yeah, the refurb, obviously the traditional form of the value add, but by upping that exactly what you said. That you got 3 different value adds that you've done. Mate, how did you? One last question, and before we wrap up, how did you get into your strategy of buying How did you fall into that? What path did you go down for you to go, oh yeah, actually, do you know what, this is going to be, I mean, I'm sure that if you got offered a deal that wasn't part of this strategy, but it was a deal you're going to buy it anyway, but generally you're pretty well known for buying flats with low leases. How did you fall into that strategy?
Yeah, so basically, I was doing some remortgages before. Basically, from the last credit crunch, I had quite a few, I think I must have had maybe 13 mortgages with Birmingham Midshires. And then after the credit crunch, they changed their system. So now I think you can only have maybe 3 or 4 buy-to-let mortgages with them. And then what they were doing as well, you couldn't extract any cash from it. So there's no remortgaging, no further advances, no nothing. So I just left them ones for quite a few years, and then all the equity just building up in them. So I thought, all the equity in them, and I can't take it out. Let me just change over these mortgages to TMW. Then, so the surveyor, I think I had about 4 revaluations in one day. So the Connell surveyor went around with myself in one car to each property, 3 of them, the leases were all right. And then the 4th one, he said to me, "Oh, this lease is 73 years." So I said, "Yeah, so we can't offer you what you want on it." So I said, "Okay, but if you extend the lease on this particular one, as soon as you do so, we can value it at I think it was 215,000 back then." So I said, "Okay." So wait, so he said to me, basically, you go away, you extend the lease, but as soon as you extend it, you send TMW a copy of the new lease with a new lease extension on it, and then automatically they'll update it on their system, the index valuations, and then you can take out the rest of the further advance from that property. So I said, "All right, that's a good idea." So basically that gave me the idea for some of the other ones to buy flats with low leases going forward, because it creates like an instant equity or an uplift straight away. So from then, just got the idea. I mean, just move forward from it. So that's how it started, basically.
Love that. You see some pan notes and you pounced on the opportunity. That's what you got to do, though, buddy. 100%. All right. Well, mate, yeah, look, I exactly like what all the other guys said. Fully appreciate you giving your time out today, Jay, and putting that presentation again, mate. Honestly, it's very nice of you. And the guys have got so, and all of us have got so much from it. Right. Any more questions from anybody?
Yeah, it's Ali again. Sorry, JP. Damien, by the way, funny, I like obviously your conversation. I was cracking up actually. So, but also very, very good questions at the same time, because I made some also extra notes on that. Just a quick last one, if you don't mind, JP. With your rent, I know you said you do guaranteed rent because you don't wish necessarily manage the property. What kind of scheme do you use to have the guaranteed rent? Are you using councils, or are you using another rent company? How are you doing the guaranteed rent from with your property?
Yeah, most of the ones that I'm doing recently, the last 4 or 5, I've been using like a local company, and they do guaranteed rent schemes. So they put private tenants in there, not housing association tenants in there. So that's what I've been doing with them, and they've been reliable. So during the last COVID, there was no issues. The rent was paid on time and so forth. But the ones I've got previously, I've used housing associations and I've used local councils. So with the local councils, like Haringey Council, for example, or Enfield Council, they do like 2-year contracts, 3-year contracts, and 5-year contracts. Guaranteed rent schemes under the private leasing sector. Now with them ones, the contracts that I've gone for are temporary accommodation. So they pay me direct, because some of the contracts that they have, they pay the tenant and then the tenant pays you.
Yeah.
But I don't want it that way, because sometimes the tenant gets happy, they see like a grand going into their account and they're thinking, "Oh, let me just take £200 out of that and give the landlord the rest." I don't want that. So I've got contracts with the councils and housing association where they pay me direct rather than paying the tenants. And as you can see, it's like you get maybe £100 to £150 less than the normal market rate in some cases. But like I said, it's guaranteed. Been through like the credit crunches, been through COVID, been through Brexit, still getting your money into your account like a wage every month. So there's no issues, and no worried about not worried about Section 21, trying to evict tenants and so forth. None of that I worry about. So that's my way of doing it. So it takes away the hassle and the stress of it, basically. So you get less money per month, but you get more free time to do what you want to do and less stress. Yeah,
perfect. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm gonna guess the council ones you do have, are they also under the FRI contract?
Which one's that?
There's a FRI or FI repair this contract, basically. The one with the councils, so that way you don't need to do any form of repairing. The council would do that.
Oh, the basic ones, yeah. The basic ones, yeah. So say, for example, the toilet's not flushing, or anything below a certain cost amount, they pay for. If anything heavy, like the boiler's not working, or a storage heater is broken, then I have to pay for it. But if anything else, then they send their council workers around there to go and fix the small costs. Like if a latch is not working, door latch not working, they won't call me up. They'll just send their council tradesman or woman around there to go and fix it. And then it's nothing of my nose. So the heavy things I do, the small things they do.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Perfect. I appreciate that. Yeah.
All right.
Cheers. Thank you again.
Yeah, you're welcome.
one thing on that Jay, for Addy there in regards to the guaranteed rent, and I'm with you, Jay, and I know Rick does it as well. A large proportion of my portfolio is on the guaranteed rent scheme because it's just less headache. And you say that 150, Jay, but like you pointed out in your presentation when you said like, oh, I'm getting 150 less, but then 70 quid would have got in agency fees anyway. That's half your money gone. That's without void periods and council tax bills that you've got to pay for these tenants ain't in there. So I'm with you. But one thing that plays on my mind, and I know this is not the case with you and Ricky, you spoke about it previously, and you guys have structured yours in a better way than what I did. I've done mine years ago. Is that I've given all of mine to one, more or less, I'd say 85% of my guaranteed rent stuff is with one company. So when you give these properties to these agents, and maybe like in my case, it's like it's an agent just representing the council, or like these agencies that Ricky and Jay have used, I've put all my eggs in one basket. And although it hasn't caused me a problem, and I've got a great relationship with these people, and everything ticks over as it should do, one thing that does play on my mind is like, maybe I should have given them so many properties, because now they've got me by the ghoulies, right? If anything was to go wrong, which it hasn't, but that does play on my mind. So I would say to anybody, is when you do these guaranteed rent schemes and you start giving them your properties, don't give them all to one. Find another one that does the same thing and just spread them out a little bit, which I think you do anyway, Jay. You ain't got all of your properties with one company, have you?
Exactly, yeah. The most I've got with one is like with LP, and I've got 11 of them. And then after that, I've given some to Enfield, Haringey, and like Filey. So I mix it up a little bit. So like you said, you just diversify. Because if you give them all into one company, then it's like it's a bit more of a risk, if you know what I mean. Yeah, so I've diversified. Like
that one company there that's got 11, Jay, if they went under tomorrow, or if they decided they weren't going to pay you no more, you've got 11 rents that ain't going to come in. That's like whatever percentage of your portfolio, right? Don't worry, I'm in a worse position than what you are, right? So, and that's exactly what the problem is. Like, if you find yourself in that predicament where, if for whatever reason someone don't want to pay you no more, you're not chasing one tenant. Like, if you've got 11 properties and one tenant stops paying you, that's 10% of your rent roll. Like, you can cover that from the profits from the rest. If you've got that percentage, depending on how big your portfolio is, like I don't know what percentage of Jay's portfolio 11 is, but like if it's a large percentage and they stop paying you, then you're up in shit street roll style. And although that may never happen, and I've been with this company for over 15 years, they've had a lot of my properties, right? And it's been an absolute perfect surface, and I get on really well with the owner and all that stuff, right? But it's just one of them things when you're trying to protect yourself, just one little, whatever it might be, suddenly tomorrow he gets a drug addiction, suddenly tomorrow he gets hit by a bus, suddenly tomorrow they go under, suddenly tomorrow, like anything, and your whole, like you could, and you might not even know that's the case, right? That you've got all of your business dependent upon one person or one company. You don't even realize that you have until like you sit back like me and you go, hold on a minute. But now it's such a mission to unravel that and unroll that, which I am doing slowly. But yeah, just a little point to throw in there. Would you agree with that, Jay? Yeah,
yeah, definitely. But as well, did you give them to the last, during the last credit crunch? Did they help you as well?
Not great, but you know, I've been with these guys since 2003, 2004. I sell the owner deals, and we've got a good relationship. It's always been spot on. All through the last credit crunch, they paid me on the button. All through the pandemic, they paid me on the. I can't fault the service that they give, and that's why I've been going back to them for so long. But do you know what it is sometimes, guys? Is that when you're in your daily mix, that you can't see the wood through the trees, and when you're just doing what you're doing every single day, and that's what you give them to them, give it to them, give it to them, give it to them. I ain't till one day when you sit back and like the penny drops, you go, hold on a minute, what if flat shit was to hit the fan? Like, what if that was to happen? It's a I mean, there's so many possibilities, right? But that is a possibility. So if I could rewind the clock and do things differently, just for peace of mind, I probably wouldn't have given them so many properties. If that's just it, I would have tried to have built more relationships with more people. But there's only so much you can do to cover yourself, right? But I just thought I'd throw it in there. That was all.
Yep, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thanks, Damien, as well, for adding that in. Yeah, it does make sense. So yeah, yeah, thanks for that. Thanks, JP, as well.
Hi, Jay.
Yeah. Hi, Daniel. You right there?
Yes, I'm good. Thank you. Thanks for doing the webinar. Yeah, my question is, the lenders that you spoke about, do they lend for high-rise buildings and also areas that have a lot of council tenants and a very low amount of people that own their properties?
Yeah. Now with that, all the ones that I buy have a maximum of ground floor, first floor, second floor, and third floor. But I'm not sure if those lenders go and do tower blocks I'm not sure. So that would have to be a question for your broker.
Right.
Yeah. All of mine have only got a maximum of 4 levels if you include the ground.
Or 4 levels only, yeah?
Cool.
Yeah.
What your broker will do, she'll type in all the property information into his or her database, and then obviously they'll come up with lenders that will lend on that. But I'm not sure about the criteria in terms of high rises with those 5 or 6 that I've mentioned.
Yeah. Do you tend to stay away with high-rise buildings?
Yeah, no, I don't touch them. I
You
don't touch them. No.
Okay. And roughly, how long does it take to renew the lease?
Yeah, it varies. Like pre-COVID, took between. What do you mean? Actual going to land registry or going through the whole process of
once you purchase the property, then yeah, then you want to renew the lease.
That the smallest it could take, or the shortest it could take, is probably 6 weeks, or the longest it could take is maybe 9 months. It depends.
Right.
If you serve them with a voluntary notice, or if you do it through a Section 42 notice. Yeah,
okay.
Like this letter here, that I did. Where was it? Like this one, is it this one? Where is it? This one that I'm doing now, this one took about 3 weeks to agree. Not this one. The other one took about 3 weeks to agree.
Okay.
And then now it's going to take me, where's the email gone? It's going to take me a minimum of, this one here. I was negotiating about 3 weeks worth of letters just back and forth. Letters via email, this is. They saved it as a PDF and then sent it to me, and then I saved it as a PDF and sent it to them, and vice versa. It took about 3 weeks to agree a fee. And then they wrote to my solicitor on the 6th of September. And then now I've got to complete within 3 months, which is all right, because once you agree a premium, then it's just amending the lease details. And then that's it really. There's nothing else in it. I've got to send them their fee, obviously, it's £1,250 plus VAT and £15 for the disbursements. But yes, so anything, it depends. A minimum of about 6 weeks up to 9 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Right, you're welcome.
Yeah.
Daniel, just quickly, Jay, sorry, Daniel, in regards to your question, buddy, when you're talking about, and for the people that are listening, when he's talking about high-rise buildings, that's generally blocks that are over 5 floors. And when he's talking about privately owned, what the percentage is, if you're buying an ex-council property and the percentage in that block or on that estate is less than 51% privately owned, so more than 50% are still owned by the council, lenders don't like that. They're classed as undesirable property. So the lender that you're going to go to needs to be like a specialist lender. Now, 9 times out of 10, your normal residential mortgage broker will not have access to these lenders. I've got 2 brokers. My one broker is my straightforward buy-to-let residential broker, right? When I want specialist lending, it's a completely different broker. So you might not be able to go to the same broker. It might have to be a different broker that you're going to go to, right? But the question is not necessarily will you find a lender that will lend on these properties. You will. These specialist lenders will lend on these undesirable properties, and a lot of it will boil down to surveyors' comments, by the way. So they'll say to you, in principle, it kind of looks good, but it depends what the surveyor reports back to us on the day. So if he goes down to this flat and there's loads of kids down the bottom of the stairwell smoking weed, and there's people urinating in the lifts and all this kind of stuff, right? He's going to go back and report that, and the lender's not going to look too favorable on it. So when you look at these things on paper and you go like a high rise is above 4 floors and 51%, but you can look at certain high rises and certain ex-council properties, and some just look, some have got little flower beds outside, some are presented so nicely, and that will hold weight as well. But your biggest 2 factors are going to be this: what rate are you going to get? Because you're going to pay a higher rate when you go with these specialist lenders. And more importantly, what loan to value are you going to get? So even if you've got the nicest ex-council block that's got less than 51% privately owned, or you've got the nicest looking high-rise building and the lender says, yeah, great, the surveyor said it was lovely, let's go, they still are never going to give you 75 or 80%. They're not getting 80% on anything these days is hard work, right? They're definitely not going to give you 75%. You're looking at 65 to 70%. So as a property investor, as you probably know, Daniel, or in your mind, you want to be putting down the least amount of your money possible. So unless it's really, and then if you want to throw into the mix as well, it's got a low lease, lease, well, you've got a right shit on your hands, right? It's in a tower block and it's got a low lease. That's just double headaches. So unless it's a real deal, unless it's a real screamer, I would probably veer away from those types of properties, especially, I don't know what stage you're at, Daniel, but especially if you're starting out, because, and put it like this, if it's hard work for you to get finance on it, what do you think your end buyer's going to have? What problems and issues are they going to have? Further down the line when you go to sell it, now you want to exit this deal. At some point, you're going to want to sell it. Are you going to want to hang around waiting to try and find a buyer that can get a mortgage, who's maybe not as aggressive or as active or willing to take the view on it that you are today? So I would say with a lot of these properties, unless they're great deals, I would steer clear.
Oh,
hope that helps you, buddy.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Thanks for that. Yeah, I mean, at the moment I'm paying roughly about nearly 7% interest with the lender that I'm at with. Yes, but the lease is quite long still that I have.
So thanks. So you've already bought a place then. What have you bought? A high rise?
Yeah, high rise on 11th floor.
And you're paying a 7% rate on it right now. Is that with Together?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I know what you're in. All right, buddy. What you might want to do is, rather than us discuss it on an open line right now, but I understand the situation that you're in. Get my number off. Are you in a members plan, or has Jay booked you in? Are you in the Investor 101?
No, I'm not.
Right. Okay. Jay, can you give Daniel my number, please, buddy?
Yep, that's fine then.
Yeah. And give me a call, Dan, and I understand what you're saying, and I'll ask you a few more questions, and I might be able to help you, but I do understand you're in a bit of a difficult predicament, and I understand why. But we'll talk about that. No problem.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for that.
You're welcome. Come on, Jay wants some more questions. Jay's like, do you know what it is? What a lot of you don't know, right? Jay's a night owl. He don't get up to 11 a.m. He goes down the cafe, gets his breakfast, then he goes to the gym and makes it like he's lifting some weights, and he stays up till 3 o'clock in the morning. So we're all going to log off now. But anyone that wants to stay up with Jay until God midnight, you just keep asking him questions. No, I'm joking. Is there any more questions for Jay while we've got him? Jay. To be fair though, Jay, that was such a good presentation, and the people that have asked questions so far are some really good questions. So we've actually covered so much content tonight that there probably isn't going to be any more questions. But if there is, like Jay says, you've got his contact details there, and he's always around Clubhouse, which is where I think most of you guys, obviously our members, we know where you're from. But the new people that have come, and welcome and hello to all of you. You're more than likely come from Clubhouse as well. Catch him in there. So yeah, Jay, anything else you want to add? Are you happy to end it there? Do you want to keep going? What do you want to do?
No, I'm happy to end it, actually. Yeah, I'm fine.
Guys, I think Caroline has a question. Caroline, have you got your hand up?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
Go.
That was so polite. Caroline was waiting there all politely with her hand up. Go on, Caroline.
Thank you, Damian. Thank you, JP, for your presentation. That was lovely.
Yeah, you're welcome.
As an experienced leaseholder buying property, have you ever experienced like the major service charge bills?
The heavy ones?
Yeah.
No, I haven't, but I know what you mean. Some people have been slapped with like a 16 grand bill to repair the roof or something like that. But
yes,
me personally, I haven't had any.
Okay.
Them ones are more to do with, well, from what I've heard, it's more the council properties. And when they start doing, because the service charges are quite low, and then when they have some maintenance issues, like I said, repairing the roof or brickwork or redecorating the whole block, then they tend to slap the leaseholders with a big amount. But so far, I haven't been hit with anything so far. But with my purpose-built ones, what they've done once is, I think there's something wrong with the roof. So I pay obviously the normal service charge every year. But what they did for one financial year, they asked each of us to pay an extra, I think, £1,500 on top of the normal service charge to obviously get the costs together to pay for the actual roof. But I haven't been hit with any heavy ones since I've started like 20 years ago. So I've been fortunate so far.
Yeah, I had that experience of paying 24,000.
24,000. Was it for a council place or normal purpose built?
Council. I bought it from the council. Yes.
Yeah, the council.
So me and my neighbor, we are sent that bill. It's only 6 blocks, but it's only 2 of us that are leaseholders. So we end up somehow some areas they did the same thing or they did to us. Some of them went to court. But I mean, I haven't got time for that. And me and my neighbor hasn't got time for such things. So we just continue paying our own, you know?
Okay.
So yeah, I was wondering, is there a way if you are going to buy, because of this issue, I don't want to buy no more flat or lease, or it got to be anything freehold, you know? So I don't find buying flat interesting anymore because of this experience.
Yeah, no.
So I
What
don't
you
know,
do
what
as
do you
well,
think about that?
and you see, when you purchase, your solicitor should ask their solicitor or the council, whoever it is, if they have any major works in the pipeline. Yeah. So so you look for that. So that's what I would look for. Because if there's some up and coming major works in a year or 2 or 3, then I won't touch it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good then. Yeah, that's good then.
And you always look at the previous major works. So if they've had some works done maybe 3, 4, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, then you know that's fine. But if there's any up and coming, then no, I'll pull out of a deal. But it hasn't happened yet though. I always ask the estate agent beforehand to see what if there is anything like that in the pipeline before I start
coming. Okay. Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't have no buying of flats leasehold experience. That's my first experience on that.
Okay.
And I say I will never go to that end at all. Yeah. Anyway, thank you, JP, for the advice.
You're welcome.
Lovely presentation. I was wondering, you know, your best recommended lenders or mortgage advisors. I mean, you mentioned about 5. I think I managed to get about 2 or 3. I was wondering if we can have it in the chat. I have this one, mortgage lenders.
Yeah.
Land Bear, Kensington, and the Capital Home Land. You may mention.
Oh, yeah, Capital Home Loans.
Yeah.
You've also got,
I think I missed about 2 of them.
oh, you got Keystone.
Okay, Kingston. Oh, yeah, there is. I have Kingston. Yeah.
Yeah, Keystone. And you also have Foundation Home Loans.
Okay, Foundation Home Loan. Okay.
Yeah. So for short, they're called FHL for short.
Okay, home loan. Okay.
Yeah. They're quite good. They're quite good.
Okay, Foundation Home Loan. They are good.
Yeah, they're good.
And the mortgage lenders.
And the mortgage lender are good as well.
Lender. Okay.
From my experience with them.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
Right, you're welcome.
Yeah, okay. Have a lovely evening.
And you as well.
Yeah.
Jason, I just want to say, great presentation.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you.
I love the slide. I'm listening to you. And I've always learned that. I've actually nearly bought a flat. You know that flat that I was going to buy. And I'm thinking I should have maybe bought it now after listening to you. The only thing that I get concerned about is what the councillor just mentioned was the service charge. The block next door I was talking about got hit with a £3,000. Well, they started paying £3,000 a year in service charges, right? But you're quite fortunate you've never had that situation, which is good.
Yeah.
But there's pretty much out of your control, right?
Exactly, yeah. There's not much you can do, really. There's not much you can do apart from just assess. When the surveyor comes in with a report, normally they just survey that particular flat, but now they're getting, they might make it, they always look around the grounds, might look up towards the sky, see if they can check the roof. Sometimes now and again, they might put a little comment at the end of a survey, like the work, the roof might be, I don't know, in normal condition, or the roof looks a bit worse for wear, but you can't really avoid it in some senses. But the ones that hit you with the most are the council places.
The build of when they built them flats. So for example, the development I was going for was about 20 years old. So I guess you can only go by, you know, how long it's been built and the worst case scenario, especially with a roof.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah, that's more or less out of your control.
Thanks, Shay.
Yeah, all right.
JP, sorry, it's Ali again.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope I don't keep you too long. Just to ask, if possible, if you have any particular questions, basically, if I need to look basically for a lawyer to extend the lease, if you have key questions that we should ask them to make sure, one, they're experienced and they be quite quick in terms of getting on with the job, and also if I need to look out for any signs of no, don't go there, or yes, kind of sign that definitely I'm the right person. Do you have any tips or any particular questions that are that'll be useful in mind while looking at lawyers to do the extensions?
Normally, it's through recommendation that I would go for, but you do have some, like for example, where I am, I think it's called YVA, for example. They got a specialist lease extension section, so all of their solicitors in that section are supposedly professionals. So I look for someone that has got lease extension experience. You've got normal solicitors and conveyancers, but I don't know, just maybe try and look online or ask for recommendations if they've actually done any lease extensions before themselves. Or like I said, that company there, they might have a specialist section. And if they've got a specialist section, then it should be, in theory, good at what they do. But there's no, well, I suppose you could ask them how long they've been doing it for. Can you give me some examples of what lease extensions you've done? Have you had any issues with or any challenges, and have you come across it, like got around it? So if you're new to them and vice versa, then maybe ask them something like that. But normally I go for recommendations myself, and look for a lease extensions solicitor rather than a conveyancer or a normal solicitor. That's what I would do anyway.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, I think that's a lot of good tips. Yeah. Okay.
No, thanks.
Cheers.
Yep, take it.
Jay, two things. One is you're right, and Ali, do you know what? I've heard so many different scenarios of people using solicitors to do their lease for them, and although they'll do the job for them, they'll legally make sure it's done. The advice they've been given is so bad. So Jay's right. Getting a specialist is really a good move, but by getting a specialist, you're obviously going to pay for it. The recommendation is definitely key. I can save you a lot of headache. Go to my Instagram, which is at I am Damien Murray. Everywhere is YouTube, Twitter, Clubhouse is always at I am Damien Murray. Hit the link in my profile and a drop down box will come like a Linktree type scenario. And there's a thing on there that says use my solicitor. Fill that form out. Yusuf, my solicitor, who's regularly in the Clubhouse rooms, will come back to you and he will be your solicitor. Use him. He's based in Birmingham, but he can act for you remotely no matter where you're based. He does. He's worked for me for 50. This is a plug, but it's also like you need him, right? And as Ricky's now using him, the Raj is now using him, everybody, because of the service that he gives. He's such a great solicitor and his fees are reasonable. Fill out that form and email him and he'll come back to you. And that goes to anybody else that wants to use him, right? And the second thing regarding the service charge, I have to say this because it's so off-putting for a lot of people, right? Like Ricky, I know he feels that way. I remember buying my first flat when I was 21 and my dad saying to me, you can't buy leaseholds. And the reason that people say this is because of the length of the lease scenario, what Jason spoke about today, that it could cost you money when it comes to renewing the lease, and the service charge scenario, like what Caroline just mentioned right there. And it is a kick up the bum. 24 grand is painful, Caroline. Honestly, when you said that, I felt for you, right? The worst one that I've ever had is one that I've got right now, which is 12 grand. I've had ones before for like 8. Yes, it does happen a lot on ex-councils. Jay's 100% right. But you know what? It's part and parcel. And I've bought hundreds of flats, and out of them hundreds of flats, when you look at the amount that's happened to me on, the ratio is quite low. So don't let that put you off. I just want to make that point because people can hear that and go, oh my God, like suddenly out of the blue, I can get charged with that. To explain what Caroline's talking about for those that maybe are very new to this, is that if you own a flat in a block, right, there's this thing called major works, and during your ownership at some point, that the managing agent could say that we need to get some works done to the property, and all of the work's going to cost 100 grand, and divide it by the 10 flats, that's 10 grand each. You've got to pay the 10 grand, right? It's a lot of money. If you haven't got it and you say you haven't got it, you can go into a payment plan. How can you try to avoid this? Well, listen, and just to let you know as well, that's not a default on your lease. If you don't pay your ground rent, £50, £100 a year. That's a default on your lease. That can get your lease, that can get you in big trouble. We're not paying your service charge. That's the money change. It's a little bit different, right? They can take you to court. It can become a headache. You don't want to go down that route, but going into a payment plan with them is good. When you're buying the flat, you want to ask, what is the future expenditure? But like Jay rightly said, they're only going to give you a year to 2 years prediction, and that's about it, right? If a future expenditure amount does come up, that is the responsibility of the seller. So don't just pull out of the deal. You say to that seller, that's your responsibility. I've just bought that flat that I stuck on Instagram thing the other day. It was like 10 grand worth of future expenditure. I said, that's coming off the asking price. In the end, we agreed 8 grand off because like just from me wanting to get the deal through. But really, technically, that £10,000, if I ask the question when buying a flat, is there any future expenditure? And a figure gets given to me, the seller is responsible for that. I want that amount of money either paid right now or taken off of the asking price. Telltale signs of this. If you go down to the block, which you would have done because you would have viewed the flat, and it's kept quite nicely and it's all neat and tidy, and then you look at last year's accounts, like Jay just said, and the amount they're charging you is not that much, it's quite reasonable, because it's not just the ex-councils, it's the ex-councils and it's the shitty freeholders. It's the freeholders that know the laws and know the rights and charge you because they're actually shafting you. I've got freeholders out there right now that are actually shafting me, and they're doing it because they can, and they're doing it because they're charging too much money and doing very little work. So when you go down to a block and see it in nice condition, and the service charge accounts for the last 2 years show a reasonable amount of money, that's a telltale sign it's a good freeholder. If you go down to a block and it's not kept nice and there's no plants and the stairwells are dirty and the guttering is falling down, and you look at last year's accounts and it's a little bit toppy, that's a telltale sign that you've got a shitty freeholder or a shitty managing agent, which is normally they're both part of each other, right? So then when I get that scenario, that's when I steer clear. So there's some telltale signs, but yeah, unfortunately, it's part and parcel of owning a leasehold property. But don't let it put you off, guys. Honestly, I know so many people that are put off for buying leasehold. I'm not saying that you should buy leasehold. Freeholds are great, but just don't be put off because of these scary stories that you hear, because they are few and far between. And just hope it don't happen to you, I suppose, isn't it? Really, that's about it. So just to throw that in there. Yeah, is there any more hands up, Nick? Any more questions for Jay?
Just one more question. That's all right, Jason.
Yeah.
Do you own any house converted flats?
Yeah. Yeah. And some of them, luckily, I've managed to buy the freehold too as well, which is all right.
Okay. Work in terms of the maintenance issues there as well. Do you just kind of get a quote and just share it between yourself and the other leaseholders in that house?
Yeah, basically, yeah. We pay for the buildings insurance separately. And then any maintenance issue, like you said, if it's to do with the roof or the front garden, then we just share the costs, or the internal decoration of the hallway, which is small anyway. Then we just share the costs.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because normally like the ground floor flat might own the garden, and then the top floor flat, sometimes they own the loft, but if not, because when you buy a top floor flat, for example, then you got to check to see if you own the loft space with it. Sometimes it comes with it and sometimes it doesn't. So that's another thing they got to check for. But the 2 flats in the block generally have to keep up with the repairs. And then if anything does come up, then we just got to split the cost between us. But those ones are more willing to sell you the freehold than the purpose-built ones. So I've done that like 4 times.
Right? Usually in the leaseholder conditions, in case there's a dispute of some sort.
Repeat the first part again, please.
Is it usually the conditions of who shares responsibility of the maintenance? Is it usually stated in the lease?
Yeah, yeah.
So there's no.
Yes. There's no disputes. There's no disputes.
Right, Jay. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, Rick, you're right. It's all stipulated in the lease, right? So you're going to have a scenario. A 1 up and a 1 down. It will be something like the ground floor flat is responsible for any damp issues and the first floor flat is responsible for any roof issues, or the ground floor is 50-50 and the first floor is 50-50, and it will show quite clearly who owns the front garden, who's responsible for this, who's responsible for that. 9 times out of 10 it's in the lease. But these leases are so old and sometimes so hard to read that it depends on who you got downstairs, right? It's about love thy neighbor, right? Just try and keep it amicable. So yeah, sharing even sometimes in scenarios where it isn't my responsibility, and Jay might be the same for you. You just tend to just do it just to keep the peace, right? And just to keep, you want the building looking nice. Sometimes these people, the ground floor's got to be responsible for doing this, keeping the communal area on the entrance nice, and they don't do it. I'll go and do it anyway because I know it's going to improve the value of my flat and keep my tenant happy. I've just done that on my YouTube channel, January house. Do you know that I decorated the whole communal area and put all new carpet down in a 4-story? Is a house converted to 6 flats. I done the whole fucking lot. Why? Because I was trying to get the end value so high to pull my money back out again. And that couple of grand for me to spend, I knew I was going to get it and get a better tenant. So, I mean, that's an extreme scenario. But even on these one up and one downs, Jay, for how much money you spend to keep it nice, it's worth doing, right? Even if it's not your responsibility.
Yeah, definitely worth doing.
Damon, you saying that, I did exactly the same thing. I spent 300 quid on the communal area.
That's Rod, isn't it?
Yeah, sorry, I've had a few friends around, so I couldn't really join, but I've been listening. Yeah, I did exactly the same thing. I spent about 300-400 quid on the communal area because having a valuation, but it trebled in value, so it was well worth me doing it. Nobody would do it. I bought this flat for 60,000. 3 years later, I got a value of 199,000. So 300 grand £300 well spent. So I'd do the same again anytime.
Yeah, it's worth it.
But you know what I've done? Sorry, Jay. You know what I've done well, I didn't actually do it, but it was agreed, but the tenant wouldn't let me. In the lockdown, I had this flat that I just bought just before lockdown, right? And I was refurbing it, and then lockdown happened. It was a one up and one down in Leighton. And I had the upstairs. And I said to the guy that owned the ground floor flat, but he had a tenant in there, mate, can I change your front door? He was like, what? Because I've done the communal area up and I made my front door like an oak front door, and his door was a shabby white door. So when you walked into this lovely communal area that I'd painted and put all laminate flooring down and changed the oak door that leads to my first floor flat with a nice little gold handle and nice little numbers on it, and I looked to the right and see his shitty door, that I said, mate, you're making my flat look bad. So I phoned the landlord and said, buddy, I'll pay for it. It's going to cost me 500 quid with fit. Oh, can I check? He goes, yeah, mate, lovely. Anyway, would the tenant let me do it? No, it's fucking COVID. She wouldn't let my builder in there. So I ended up having to put up with this. It still ain't done to this day. A shitty white door. But mate, I was willing to go and actually replace the whole front door. Not the main front door I've done anyway, but you know when you open up a front door and you go into and there's two other front doors that lead to the two flats is converted, right? I was willing to change his front door to match mine because I knew how much appeal that would add to my flat. But exactly like you said, Wad, people don't think that way because they're too tunnel vision in like, but that's not my responsibility. Why am I paying for someone else's door for? I'm not doing that. No, think about the bigger picture. What are you going to gain from that? Yeah, you're right. Obviously, try the first approach, which is getting him to pay for it, which is what I did. But it was a bit like, well, Damien, I haven't got the money right now. And I thought, oh, do you know what? I can't be asked. But if not, just do it yourself. So yeah, Wad, I'm with you, buddy.
It's all good. Yeah, it's best sometimes. That's what I say anyway. Presentation is key, especially for the surveyors.
Yes, mate, 100%. I want my money back. When I say that, guys, what I'm talking about is the remortgage, right? If you buy the property, you do the work to it, you then get the surveyor in there to value it at a certain point so that you get 75% of that new value and you get all your money back. You've got to do whatever, put pot plants out. Do you know what I do? I spray it with frigging air freshener before the surveyor walks in, or I get someone to do that. Just spray it, make it smell nice. It's that first impression when he or she walks in there. You want to do control the controllables, do whatever you can do to get that end result. If it's within your power, do it. If it's not within your power, there's nothing you can do. But if there's something that you could have done and you didn't do it, then more for you. Look at that, we're nearly at 9 o'clock now, Jay. This is turning into a 2-hour Zoom, man. You've done really well. Any more questions for Jay, guys?
Juliana with a hand up.
Go, Juliana.
Yeah, sorry, just a very quick question. So if apartment, oh crap, I have so many questions actually. I've already sent you some. I've got many questions. Maybe I will book a phone call with you if that's all right, because it's getting quite late for everybody else.
Yeah, that's fine. With myself or Damien? With
yourself, Jason.
Yeah, that's fine.
With
that's
regards,
fine,
yeah, because I am looking at a block of flats, and it's making me a bit nervous because I don't know UK properties that well. So I really would appreciate your help and guidance. I'll just book a call with you separately. But thank you, guys.
Yeah, that's fine. It's all right.
Jay, she's looking at a block of flats that's 5.5 million.
Is it? That's out of my league.
Yeah, seriously,
Oh,
it is 5.5 million in excess of offers only. But the owner is meeting me this Friday, so with some chance, maybe he might be willing to offer to accept a lower price. But you want to come with me, Jason?
Where is it? Where is it in?
It's in West London.
Okay, it's not too far.
Not too far. Well, what do you mean? Where are you based?
North London.
Okay, so it's very near to my house. It's brilliant. It's perfect for me to manage. I'll book a call with you. Thank you, guys.
Lightning.
JP, so it's Al again. Just last one, fiery one. Sorry. Just kind of following up what Damien was saying as well. When you have extended the lease, and then now you basically you've come back with a survey whereby the surveyor got back to you and said, if you had extended the lease, let's say 90 years plus, then they're going to give you a new value of a new example, let's say 225. Yeah, I just want to know, just in that particular moment, did you have to do any work on a house to show an improvement, or did they just simply base it on in terms of you now extended the lease? Now, now basically the property at market value with extended lease is worth this much, or did you have to do any work on a house to kind of to show to the surveyor you have actually done some work to give it extra value?
Yeah, this one is just purely based on the lease extension.
Okay, yeah.
Purely based on that, yeah. Because that first one I told you about with the Cornell surveyor came around, that one didn't need any work to it. He just said, basically, if you extend it from 73 years upwards, then we will update our systems on the TMW systems, which is the mortgage work systems, to have a new index valuation, and then we can lend you the money, basically. You can do a drawdown. So that's what I did. So this one didn't need any work. But there are some, like I mentioned before, where it does need a refurb. You can reconfigure it from like a 1-bed to a 2-bed or 2-bed to a 3-bed, and you can extend the lease all at the same time. So you can do those ones, but all of this what I'm doing now is purely based on lease extension uplifts, and that's it. Yeah, no refurbs.
Cheers. Yeah, okay, that's great. Yeah, nice one.
Looks like that's it then.
Hi, Jason.
No. Ali, no. Ali's
Hello?
gonna have one more question. Ali, where's your one more question?
Oh, Carol's there.
Sorry.
Oh, Carol.
Is that hi, Jason. Thanks for
Hi,
this
you right there?
evening. Yeah, I'm fine, thank you. Really good nuggets this evening, so thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Just wanted to ask you, because you know the flat I was telling you about, I don't know if you remember, because you probably speak to so many different people, but if I just refresh your memory, it's a 1-bedroom ground floor flat in a house, so there's a 1-bedroom on top. Okay. And the lease is around 66, 67 years. The freeholder has never been around. So this is over 15 years. So I've never paid ground rent. I've never paid any lease. The freeholder's missing. So I wanted to purchase the freehold.
Yeah.
So the person, yeah, you remember now. So the person you put me in contact with, he was really good. But one of the things he said is that I need to speak to the person in the top flat, because he needs to sign a document to say he's willing for me to buy the freehold.
Yeah, that's correct. Section, it's called section 5, is it? It's called section 5?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
It's in my email somewhere, but he's not prepared to do that. What do I do? What can I do, if anything?
That's a tough one.
It is it's a tough one.
Yeah. I'm not sure about that one. Because I'm not sure about that one. Because you need his permission.
That's what that person that you put me into contact with said, that I need his permission. He needs to sign a document. If he doesn't sign it, that's what I forgot to ask him, but that's what I'm asking you. What happens? Am I just sort of stuck? Because the lease is 66 years now. I'm stuck, yeah?
Yeah, you're stuck. Unless, you know, because it's an absent freeholder. Yeah, you're stuck. I'm not sure what to do there. Maybe Damien might know.
Yeah, I don't think you're going to be stuck. You need to basically, your solicitor should be telling you, he should be writing to serving notice on that other leaseholder to say to him, do you want to buy this freehold with me? Like he might have to buy it with you. What he might be saying is, I don't want to sign this form to say that you can buy it. I want to buy it with you, right? So your solicitor should be able to serve notice on the other leaseholder and say, we are planning on buying this freehold. Do you want to come in with us? Please inform us within 14 days. Right, then they don't get. It's not going to end. There needs to be another follow-up letter after that, right? You have to follow the process. I don't know exactly. It might be 3 times you've got to chase them and make sure that the letter you send is a recorded delivery letter and it was signed for. If it's not signed for, grab a copy of that letter off your solicitor, go down to the flat yourself, stick it over the guy's keyhole and put tape around it and take a picture of it so there was no way of entering his flat about seeing that. Do these kind of things. Like my solicitor can definitely guide you on this, but if you've got a leasehold solicitor, I say to him, like, you can't stop there. Force him to either say he's going to buy it with you or he doesn't want to buy it, and then you can go. That's the point of serving a Section 5 notice. The Section 5 notice is saying, I'm planning on doing this. Do you want to do it with me? Do you want to buy it? Yes or no? So you're not stuck, but you just have to go through this process. So did this guy give you any inclination as to whether he's not interested, don't want to get involved, you don't understand it, so he's not doing it, or is he saying like, no, hold on a minute, I might be interested in buying it? What type of person is he, do you think?
What he said to me is that he's not interested in it, because I asked him, do you want to come in with me? He said, no, he doesn't have the money. I said, can I do it then? He said, no, why should I let you do it? Because then you will start charging me a fee, which because you'll be the freeholder. And so he said, no, I'm not signing anything. And that was it.
How
That
long
was
is
the end
your
of the
lease?
conversation.
How long is your lease?
The lease that is left is about 66 years now. That's left.
How long is his lease?
It'll be the same because we bought it at the same time.
Yeah, see now, like the first thing, but it might not be as easy as this, right? Is that a conversation needs to take place between you and him, and there needs to be a level of negotiation. First of all, it needs to be made clear to him that he's in a very, and you are as well, but you clearly know that, hence why you're making the moves that you're making, that both of you are in a very delicate situation right now. Like your lease is very towards the point of being unmortgageable, which means you're not going to be able to sell your property. So you are on tender hooks right now, and you really want to get him to understand that, even if you have to put a clause in there to say that I will not charge you nothing. Like there's going to be no charge to you. Like I won't charge you anything that you think I'm going to charge you. Be careful with how you do that, because what you don't want to do is offer him too much, but then you're paying a higher premium for the freehold. You don't need to satisfy his conditions without it affecting you, right? If let's, for example, all else fails and you just can't buy that freehold, you can definitely renew your lease. You can still definitely 100%. I know that's your eyes are on the freehold. I would quiz you a bit more and say, why are your eyes on the freehold? Because when you buy that freehold, it's going to get valued, and it's going to be valued on the basis that you've got 2 leasehold flats with a low lease. So let's say, for example, the premium for renewing your lease is going to be 40 grand, and the premium for renewing his lease is going to be 40 grand. They'll value that freehold at like 80 grand. So when you buy that freehold, you're not going to get it for the cost of your lease renewal. They're going to take into effect both. What that will mean is that if ever this idiot upstairs, whoever this guy is, decides to renew his lease, he has got to pay you, and you will be remunerated for some of the cost. But in the meantime, you're going to front enough money to cover the value of 2 lease renewals and take into account whatever the ground rent is. I don't know if you know how much your ground rent is per year right now.
I don't pay any ground rent. That's the thing.
You don't pay it, but it should be. What is it saying your lease ground rent should be?
No, what I'm saying is that there was never any document to say that this is the amount that I need to pay each year. And I asked the person upstairs as well, and he didn't receive anything from the freeholder either.
No, it'd be in your lease. If you read your lease, it will clearly state exactly how much your ground rent is, unless, of course, it says it's a peppercorn ground rent. It might say it's peppercorn there, but I doubt it will.
It said peppercorn. I remember the word peppercorn.
If that's the case, I'm surprised though, considering it's a 67-year lease. But if it said that, then great. Which means you haven't got to take that into consideration, but you will have to take into consideration the cost of his lease renewal. So just brace yourself for that. If you do go down that road, it's not going to be a cheap one for you. But I would definitely the issue. What other, have you got any other potential there, like development potential? You're in the first floor, so are you seeing development?
I'm ground
you're-
floor and he's first floor. It's a house converted into 2 flats.
Are you seeing any development potential? Is there a plot of land on the side, anything like that?
No, I'm hoping to, because it's 1 bedroom, I want to extend it into 2 and there's space to do that, but that's about it.
Yeah. I would be questioning you as to why you want to buy the freehold. Like, if you want to have a chat with me offline, you're more than welcome. I would think about that. I'd be sitting down with you and going, right, okay, cool, let's work out what is this realistically going to cost you to buy the freehold? What is it going to cost you just to renew your lease? You'll get 90 years on top, by the way. If you go to the courts right now and you instruct a leasehold surveyor and a leasehold solicitor to act for you, you will get 90 years on top of what you've got right now. And the ground rent would go to 0, but it's already at 0. So you'll get a good length lease out of it. And you could probably even throw in there as well the alterations that you want to do, because you do need freeholders' consent for those, but he's not around anyway. So what would you supposed to do? It'd be very hard for him to come back in 5 years' time and say, you've altered this flat and I'm going to take you to a tribunal now, or you know, cause you a lot of headache, because he was. So I wouldn't worry too much about that. I would be asking, like what Jay said earlier, who owns the loft? Does this guy in the upstairs own the loft? What is the lease state? And if he's using the loft, you could use that against him. But it's a load of headache that you don't want, Carol. Sit down and work out what is going to be the easiest, less stressful way, most cost-effective way of you getting what you want. But before you can answer that question, you need to know what you want. Like, what is the reason you're buying the freehold? I know it sounds romantic, but when you put pen to paper, what is the reason? What do you really want out of this? I want a nice long lease so my flat's protected, and that's about it, really. I don't know unless you say something different.
No, that's absolutely what I do want. A nice long lease that I don't need to sit and think, oh my gosh, I need to renew this in X amount of years. And I thought by owning the freehold, I would have less headache. But listening tonight, just extending it by 90 years may be the way to go, and maybe the cheaper way to go.
Definitely cheaper. And you know what? You're right. In an ideal world, grab the freehold if you can, right? But I think you get a 90-year lease on top. But if you're happy with the way that things are right now and there's no development potential there, this will be much easier and a lot less stress. And you ain't got to piss matey off upstairs. Again, if you go to my Instagram, there's a drop-down box. My solicitor details are there. Hit him up, fill in the form. He'll know it's come from me. He's in contact with my leasehold surveyor as well. They'll be able to handle this for you super easy. You'll have very little involvement in it until it comes to paying the amount of money that you've got to pay for the lease renewal, and it'd be happy days. I think that's on the little that you've told me, and again, I'm happy to speak to you outside of here. I think that's the best route for you. Get 90 years on top, and that will last you a long time.
Brilliant, thank you. I've joined your mastermind as well, so and I've joined your Instagram, so I can contact you there. I can DM you there, and we can talk offline. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Booking a 15-minute call with me. I'd love to have a chat with you.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jason.
All right, you're welcome.
Any more takers? Who we've got for Jay? Come on, he's got loads of time. My battery's not on my laptop though. Any more takers for Jay?
Got no more hands up, buddy.
No more hands up. Good. Okay, we'll wrap it up there then. Nick's gonna